Let's talk about how the emotionally immature put things and people on pedestals, and not just because they're emotionally stagnated into black or white thinking, but this also has so much more to do with ego state development, personality development, self-worth, and all of that stuff. So let's dive right into it. First and foremost, people that are emotionally immature lack necessary ego state development. They lack necessary view development, the way that they see themselves and the world. Healthy boundaries, individuation, differentiation. All of these necessary elements that they lack lead them to approach life from this standpoint. Now, before I proceed, I'm going to make something very clear here. Some people out there have an intrinsic sense of self-worth, meaning that they and themselves alone determine their self-worth. They do not seek anything outside of themselves to determine their self-worth or to determine themselves, who they are. Other people have an extrinsic self-worth. This means that they tie their identity and their self-worth to things and people out there. People that are emotionally healthy have an intrinsic self-worth. They have a very wholesome and developed sense of identity, personality, and self-worth. People that are emotionally unhealthy, emotionally immature, emotionally stagnated, they tie their sense of identity, their sense of personality and self-worth to the external, to things out there. But it's fascinating because there's a very specific reason that they do this. People that are emotionally immature don't really have, even those that are subtle with the emotional immaturity, they have a less developed sense of self. When you are emotionally immature, when you are emotionally stagnated, you usually have the emotional maturity of somewhere between infancy, toddlerhood, childhood. You're not really that developed emotionally. But the fascinating thing is that emotional maturity also has so much more to do with personality than so many people understand. Which is why people that are emotionally immature very much base themselves externally. And in the most severest degrees, people actually base their senses of selves off of things and people out there. Which, in and of itself, I kind of just gave away the entire meaning of this video. People that are emotionally immature, they derive their sense of self-worth from the external. With that, there's a reason that they place things and people on pedestals. Now let's look at what exactly a pedestal is. Well, when you place something or someone on a pedestal, you're placing them all the way up there. This is rooted in black or white thinking because they're either on the pedestal and they're the most amazing thing in this fucking universe, or they're nothing at all. Or they're a piece of shit. For emotionally immature people, especially the ones that exceed emotional immaturity and emotional stagnation, there's no gray area for them. Things are very much in extremes. It's a very much survival-based dynamic, all or nothing. Somebody or something out there would be everything to them, which is unhealthy, or nothing at all to them. There's no middle ground. For people that have like subtle emotional maturity, it's different. It's still a lot of black or white thinking to a very large degree, but it's not as severe as the more extreme ones. This video is to go towards the people that are on the further side and all the way over on the extreme, on the spectrum. But to make this very clear and understood, let's look at Freudian psychology, psychoanalytic theory, the id. I know I use this model a lot in my videos, but it's just necessary because it's helpful to understand what actually is going on here. The id, the ego, and the superego. The thing that's necessary to look at here is the ego state, which is the very middle identity. The next important thing to look at is the id. The id is the very first entity that is born in all of us. It is the survival entity, the all or nothing. Well, there's that dynamic again, all or nothing, black or white thinking. People that are emotionally immature tend to live a lot, if not entirely, inside of black or white thinking. And because of that, they also tend, well, let me make this very clear. This is very important to understand this whole thing. There's a reason why people that are emotionally immature, emotionally stagnated, live very much out there. There's not a whole lot in here. And for some people, if they lacked very necessary and wholesome ego state development, there's like nearly fucking nothing inside of themselves. So that's fucking scary for those people. So then what do? Well, if there's nothing in here, if it's a fucking hollow chamber, you ever go somewhere where like it's fucking desolate and there's nothing in there? Sometimes, to some extent, it can actually get pretty fucking creepy and freaky. People that lacked very necessary ego state development tend to have almost a whole lot or entirely nothing inside. At the core of the personality that was supposed to be there, or that could have been there, but did not get healthy ego state development, ended up being chambers and halls and corridors of fucking howling wind, of aloneness, of nothingness, of fucking emptiness. And so, with that, there's fucking nothing there. There's nothing to identify with. There's nothing to understand. There's nothing to see. Who the fuck am I? I don't know, because there's like nothing there. Maybe there are scraps and traces of some stuff, but to a large majority of it, there's pretty much nothing. So then, these are the people that are emotionally immature. They're immature because they lack the necessary ego state development. So then what do? Oh, let me see what's out there. And not only that, let me also put it on a pedestal. Let me also idolize it. Let me also idealize it. Let me also make it out to be so much more bigger. So much bigger. There we go. Let me also make it out to be so much bigger and more important than it is. Emotional immaturity. But the reality of it is that because they don't see anything inside of themselves, or with that, hardly anything, there might be a little something there, but because their development was so fucked up and lacked the necessary vitamins and nutrients and soil and all the stuff that leads to a wholesome and mature adult, they go scavenge out there for it. They seek their identity based on that. They seek their sense of self-worth based on that. They seek their personality based on that. And of course, it is very short-lived because none of that is actually long-lasting. It's not sustainable. And so it's fascinating because this is why people that are emotionally immature, emotionally stagnated, seek things externally far more and put things on pedestals. Oh, it would be so wonderful. It would be so great if I could just have that person or that thing. Yeah, they place so much importance on it because there's like nothing in here. It's very important to understand that when you did not get healthy ego state development to a very large degree, you kind of like go throughout life just like blowing around in the wind without aim. A healthy, wholesome ego state, personality, is fucking crucial. People that lack that, whether it's like medium or severe, they have a very hard time developing themselves from the inside because they don't really see anything there. They have a hard time understanding who they are because without a healthy ego state, they don't really know who they are. So they attach and tie to the outside. They tie to that person, to that thing. Oh, I'm only worthy if I have this relationship. Oh, I'll only know who I am if I have this relationship. Oh, I depend on other people's opinions and thoughts and tastes and everything to understand who I am. This is the way that people that are emotionally stagnated work. Oh, I derive how I feel about myself based on what that person thinks about me. Codependency. When you are emotionally mature, when you have a healthy ego state, you determine yourself. You do not rely on the external to tell you whether or not you're worthy, to tell you what your personality is or who you are, to understand your identity. No, you determine that yourself. But just to really end this off and make this clear, I could talk for a few more minutes about this, but to really end this off and make this very clear, the reason for the pedestal has a lot to do with black or white thinking, all or nothing. For somebody that is emotionally immature, let's look at the survival part of this. People that have a healthy ego state, they're not worried about looking out there for their survival, because that's based on in here. And they're also not thinking in terms of black or white. They're not thinking in terms of survival. They have a static sense of self, and that is solid. That's not an issue for them. The very reason why people that are emotionally immature, people that are emotionally stagnated, live from a place of survival is because their identity, their sense of self, their sense of self-worth is very much tied to survival-based thinking. Like, when you think about it, people that are like severely emotionally immature could even be stuck in infancy. Infancy is where the id is born. It's the very first entity. And the id is that survival-based all or nothing dynamic where, because you don't know who you are, you don't even have a wholesome, you don't even have a glimpse of an ego, of who you are, of an identity, of an understanding of yourself. You're just an all or nothing. So you're going to tie your self-worth, you're going to tie your personality, you're going to tie your identity to people and things out there. And the reason why the pedestal is so real for people that are emotionally immature, emotionally stagnated, is because if you're coming from a place of survival, yeah, you're going to make things fucking important. You're going to throw tantrums. You're going to go ballistic. You're going to blow things out of proportion because it's your survival. If you don't fucking eat, you die. If you don't tie your sense of identity or self-worth to someone or something out there to understand who the fuck you are, you fucking die. And it might not be like a physical death, but for some people, in this case, it's an ego death. And for people that don't know who they are, that's terrifying. Because imagine, like, you're going, you ever see a compass before? It gives you a sense of direction, right? It's magnetized. It is attracted to a certain direction. It is attached. It is tied to a certain direction. You're going somewhere. People that lack necessary healthy ego development and are emotionally stagnated, usually around like infancy and toddlerhood, they don't know who they are. So that's why they tie themselves to the external. People and things. That's why they put things on pedestals, because it is an all or nothing dynamic for them. It is survival based. They don't know who they are. And that's fucking terrifying. And if something outside of them goes away, then they lose a part of what they consider to be themselves. But just so this is understood, this is why people that are emotionally immature put things and people on pedestals, because it has, to them, so much more to do with their identity and their self-worth. Because they don't see anything in here, so they go out there to find it. And that's why they put things and people on pedestals. And really, like, the way out of this one, you have a lot, no shame or guilt here at all, but you have a lot of work to do on yourself. You have a lot of stuff to explore. There's a lot of fucking fractured and broken pieces. Healthy ego state development is, in my opinion, severely fucking underrated. There's a difference between healthy ego state development and unhealthy ego state development. It is entirely dependent on your upbringing, how you were parented, if you had healthy parents, if you did not have, all that stuff. But this is just to help people understand why people that are emotionally immature, and I apologize, I have congestion, that's why I sound nasally. This is to help people understand why people that are emotionally immature put things and people on pedestals outside of themselves. It's very complex. There's a lot to say in this arena. But yeah, that's really a majority of it. People that have a healthy ego state are very much intrinsic. They know who they are. They're not questioning that on a regular fucking basis. People that are emotionally immature, they lacked, or I should say, they lack healthy ego state development. And for some of them, or even many of them, it's very severe. And it's sad and unfortunate. But that's the reality of it.